Hello, I'm Sarah, Salisbury Park Yoga instructor. Welcome to your Park Yoga Short. So Park Yoga is a charity that aims to bring people closer to nature by the practice of yoga outdoors. The lessons are free and available to all. And if you would like to support Park Yoga, there will be a link at the end of the recording. So today we're going to be focusing on our feet. Part of us that I think most of us would agree that we don't pay enough attention to. And feet are so important. If we lose the use of our feet, if we can't get our feet to move for us, then we lose the ability to be able to walk, to be able to stand up, and to be able to independently live. So keeping our feet moving, keeping flexibility in our ankles and toes is something that we should, I think, be including in our yoga practice. So I'm going to come down to seated. You can sit on a chair for this, or you could sit on the floor. Okay, and all I'm going to do is just place my hands just behind me. I'm going to lift one foot off the floor, and I'm just going to point my toes away from me and then point my foot up towards the sky, just so we start to get some movement into the ankle joint. And then just draw some circles. I can hear some little clicks and creaks in my ankle joint. That's perfectly normal. And change direction. I'm a little bit worried the bottom of my feet are a bit mucky because I've been walking around outside. Okay, and then we do the other foot. So pointing away and up to the sky. Away and up to the sky. And then we do the same with the rotation in the other ankle. And changing direction. Okay, and now I'm going to cradle my foot in my hand. So I'm wrapping one arm, underneath the leg just to support that leg. If that's not comfortable for you, you could bring your foot down towards the ground, and you could do this with your foot on the ground. So what I'm going to do is just be easing my fingers in between my toes. So I can't get my fingers all the way down to the bottom in between my toes, so I'm just wiggling them in as best as I can just to get a little bit of separation in between the toes, and then I'm just going to work some rotation into the ankle joint and changing direction. Okay, and then just releasing that and giving my toes a little bit of a wiggle. And then I'll change over. I'm going to wrap my arm underneath my leg. I'm going to wiggle my fingers in between my toes again. Okay. And then I'm just going to draw a circle through the ankle joint again. So at first when I started doing this, it was really uncomfortable. But over time, it gets a little bit easier. It's still a bit uncomfortable now. So don't force your fingers down there. Don't cause yourself lots of discomfort. Just working within your own range of limitation. Okay, and then just giving the toes a little bit of a spread out, and a little bit of a wiggle. Okay, so next of all, I'm going to come over onto my knees. So I'm on all fours. And I'm going to place my toes onto the mat. So at the moment, my toes, it's almost, I hope you can see this, I hope it's nice and clear, but I've sort of on the end of my toes like a ballerina would be. But what I want to do is try to move a bend into the toe joint. So I'm not trying to stay on the tips of the toes. I'm trying to allow the toe joint to bend. So if you are a runner and you're particularly tight across the bottom of your feet, you may find this really uncomfortable, but with practice it can improve. So starting off with the hands down on the mat, this may be where you stay for today. And certainly if you've got any toes that are fused, if you've got arthritis in your toes, then this is probably as far as you're going to go today. But if you have got a little bit more range of movement there, you could start to walk your hands back towards your knees and take a little bit more weight back towards your heels. And if that feels okay for you, you could come up onto your fingertips and then move yourself back into a kneel. So if this is uncomfortable on your knees, you can put a blanket underneath your knees. And if this is excruciating, do not stay here long. Bring your hands back down to the mat. This is really good for helping get those toe joints moving and stop them stiffening up. So just take a moment just to stay here, only for as long as is right for you. I used to practice this if ever I blow dry my hair, which doesn't happen very often, but that's a good time to just give a little bit of a practice. Okay, and then if you're still there, just release that. Now, as you release, just take the weight back into your hands again. Gently move your toes away from the mat and just start to work them backwards and forwards. And then if you've got the range of movement in your ankle and it feels okay for you, you can flatten your feet down onto the mat and just allow your bottom to come back towards your heels and just release that. And if you want to, you could come up into a kneel here. Okay. Right, so we're just going to do that again. So placing the hands down onto the mat. I'm going to take my toes onto the mat. And then I'm just going to start to move my bottom back towards my heels, move my hands back towards my knees, and just start to take my weight back. So remember, if this isn't right for you, you can keep your hands back down on the mat. Just really listen to what's going on. It's usual to get some discomfort, but if it's really screaming at you and it's agony, then please do place your hands back down onto the mat. And we just keep the shoulders nice and relaxed and we take our focus back to our breath. And then when you're ready, you can start to release this. Now, I always need to do this nice and steadily to release the toe joints. Nice and steady. If you can take your weight onto your knees, then do so. If not, you can just place your shin further down onto the mat and give your toes a little bit of a wiggle. Okay, so we're just going to work in the opposite direction with that now. So once again, you need to be a little bit careful with this movement too. And you might want to place a blanket underneath your legs just to help you with this. So what we're going to do is just start to lean the upper body back a little bit and place our hands on either side of us. And that is just going to get a little bit more length through the front of the shin and the front of the ankle. If you feel like you've got the room to be able to going a little bit further into this, you could actually think about gently lifting your knees up off the mat, and that will put a little bit more length into the front of the feet. But do listen very carefully to the messages you're getting from your own body about what's right for you. If you've got a little bit more movement in there, you could take your knees a little bit further off the mat, but do be careful with this. Okay, so, and then release. And then I would suggest that you come down into child's pose, just to give yourself a little bit of a rest, and your feet and your ankles a little bit of a rest there. Make it a nice relaxed child's pose. So if you can't get your forehead down onto the mat, that doesn't matter. You can rest your forehead on a cushion or a blanket. Check the shoulders are nice and relaxed and take the focus back to the breath for a moment. And remember, it's in these moments of stillness in yoga that the mind will often start to chatter to us. So just notice if that's happening. And then move your focus back to your breath again. And then when you're ready, you can come back up to kneeling. So I'm sorry if you can hear a lot of bird noise in the background. There's a flock flying over the top of me at the moment. Okay, so what we're going to do next of all is just get a little bit of massage into the bottom of the foot. So I've got a little roller here that was made specifically to be able to roll your foot across. You can buy these. You don't need one of these. You can use a tennis ball. So if you don't have anything and you want to go and find something, you can always just pause this and then come back to the video. Okay, so as you make your way up into standing, just take your time. You've had your ankles and your feet at quite an angle, so you might want to just come into a crouch for a moment. And then place your heels on the mat and just slowly push yourself up. Just uncurling the spine and just being careful not to stand up too quickly, otherwise you can make yourself feel quite dizzy. So I've got my foot roller I'm going to place that onto the mat. I'm just going to take my weight into my right foot and then just roll my left foot across the top of the block. And we're just looking for a good massage, allowing to roll on the inside, on the instep, and the outer edge of the foot across the heel. And I'm certainly feeling that. If you've got a tennis ball, you can really get the tennis ball into all the tight spaces in the bottom of your foot. Okay, and then we're going to swap over. So just rolling backwards and forwards. Of course, this is going to challenge your balance a little bit as well. So if you need to just put your hand on the wall or a table just to help with your balance a bit, that's absolutely fine. Better than falling over. The birds are back. Sorry if they're making lots of noise. I don't know whether you'll be able to hear them. Okay, so, right, I'm just going to move my roller out of the way. And if you're using a tennis ball, do just make sure you move it out of the way so you don't fall over on it. And we're going to find ourselves in mountain posture, Tadasana. So after that massage and that work in the feet, I'd really like you to continue to pay full focus on your feet as you stand in your Tadasana. So just a run through about your body positioning. Feet roughly hip width apart, gentle bend in the knees, pelvis nice and neutral so we're not sticking the bottom out too much and we're not tucking it too far under. Shoulders relaxed and away from the ears. And I like to have my arms just nice and relaxed at the side of my body. And we take our focus to our breath. And then once we've settled our breath, once we've taken a few slow breaths in and out through the nose, we start to fully focus on the feet. We look for an even spread of our weight across the pad below big toe, pad below little toe and the heel. And we really feel like we're growing roots down through the feet and into the ground. Feeling grounded, feeling firmly attached to our mat, to the ground, to the earth. And then just allowing ourselves to roll to the outer edges of the feet so the instep lifts up. Almost as if you're trying to increase your instep. You sort of crunch your toes down onto the mat, rolling on the outer edge of the foot, the little toe edge of the foot. And then flattening the foot again. And then allowing the instep to roll down towards the mat, depending on how high the arch is in your foot, will depend on whether it touches down. Mine's not, but we're just allowing the outer little toe edge of the foot to lift up and then placing that back down on the mat again. Lift up your toes, place them back down on the mat. Try and spread them out to get some space in between them. And then we're just going to come up onto our toes. You may want to just put your hand onto a wall or a table or whatever you've got around you just to help you with your balance, but we're just going to come up onto our toes. And what we try to do is prevent our ankles collapsing inwards or outwards. So we try to lift our ankle in a straight line. And then we just place the heel back down again. So I'm just going to turn to the side. You might be able to see a little bit better what I'm doing there. So I'm just coming up onto my toes with control. And wherever is right for you, as high as is right for you, not listening to the ego. If you've not done this before, you may not be able to lift your heel very far off the ground, but with practice that can improve. And you find a place to focus on just to help you with your balance. And then just lowering the heels back down again. And next round, we're going to just incorporate some arm movement in that as well. So we raise the arms. This will challenge the balance just a little bit more, but we keep our focus on that place that helps us to stay balanced. And then we lower the arms back down again, and we lower the heels, and we repeat that again. We come up onto the toes, And then we lower the arms and lower the heels. Okay, good. And we're just going to continue for a couple more rounds with that. So up onto the toes, lowering the arms, lowering the heels. As you're doing this, try not to grip onto the mat with the toes. And lowering. Okay, so for the next round, we're going to start to challenge our balance a little bit more by bending our knees and lowering our bottom with our heels lifted off the mat. Okay, so you may want to keep your arms down by your sides or out to help you with your balance. Just see how you go with that. You don't have to lift your arms above your head. Okay, do find that place to focus on to help you with your balance, and raise the arms if it's right for you. As I said, you can keep the arms down, coming up onto the toes, and then we start to bend the knees, move the arms down, and then we find that place where the arms are roughly parallel with the ground, and then we push through the toes, and we raise the arms back up, and then we lower. If you want to incorporate some breathing with that, breathing in as you reach up, breathing out as the arms come down and the knees bend. Try to keep the knees tracking towards the toes, and then push through the toes and lower the arms. And we're going to do that again. Now on this one, as you breathe out and come down, try to find that sweet spot where it's just a little bit challenging. If you go too far, you almost sort of collapse into yourself. So here, my thighs are really starting to burn. And then I push through my toes, I raise my arms, and I lower my heels. And I'm just going to lift my toes up off the mat and give them a bit of a wiggle, just so I know I'm not gripping onto the mat with them. And then off we go again. Last one, this one. Raising the arms above the head. Breathing out, nice and controlled, knees tracking towards the toes. Find that sweet spot. If you want to challenge yourself, you can hold that for a moment. Keep breathing. And then push through the toes, lifting back up, lowering. Lift your toes up, give them a little bit of a wiggle, rotate through the ankles, and then I would suggest you get your tennis ball or your foot roller, and we just give another little roll across the bottom of the foot. So I'm sort of putting my weight down through this leg to get weight down through the foot, to get that massage through the sole of my foot. And then swap over. And once again, I'm putting the weight down through that foot. And then I'm going to return to my mountain posture. Feet roughly hip width apart. Knees gently bent. Pelvis nice and neutral. I'm not sticking my bottom out too much. My shoulders are relaxed and away from my ears. I just lift my toes up so I know I'm not gripping the mat. I place them back down on the mat again. I check in on how my weight is balanced across the feet. Pad below big toe, pad below little toe in the heel. And I take some breaths in and out through my nose. And I really fully focus on my feet again. Noticing my connection with the mat, the ground, the earth. Feeling strong and steady in my mountain posture, my Tadasana. And that brings your Park Yoga Short, focusing on your feet, to an end. I hope you felt the benefit of that. And we hope to see you at Park Yoga when we can all get back together again. Goodbye.